Hello and welcome, my name is Savannah, and today we will mourn the lost young souls of The Sims 3. The children and teens taken from this world, or will the world of The Sims 3, far too soon. Today we will be diving into the mysterious circumstances surrounding these young ghosts. So without further ado, let's load into The Sims 3. So we will be going through this list in the order of the worlds these Sims appeared in, starting with Sunset Valley. Sunset Valley is the world that shipped with the Sims 3 base game. It is a 1950s-esque US-inspired suburb/beach town. The town cemetery is called Pleasant Rest, wherein lies the first Sim on this list, Opal Swarley. Opal drowned as a child and is buried next to the small pond in the cemetery. Her traits were daredevil, family-oriented, and good. She had a lifetime wish, which is incredibly rare, though not impossible for a child Sim. Her lifetime wish was to become an international super spy. She appears to have no known living or dead relatives in Sunset Valley, as she appears on no one's family tree, and she does not share a surname with anyone in town. Interestingly, she is buried next to the tragic clown. He's a returning NPC Sim from previous Sims games. He also died by drowning. As he is a clown, he of course wears clown face paint. Opal also wears some sort of party face paint as well. These similarities have led people to theorize that their deaths were possibly related. Perhaps the tragic clown drowned trying to save Opal, or perhaps there was some foul play involved. As I did in my Sunset Valley video, I highly recommend the Sims Lore's video on this because she comes up with some really interesting theories. Next, in Riverview, we have two deceased siblings. Riverview is a Sims 3 store world and is a quaint countryside town with lots of farms and pastures as far as the eye can see. At one Remington point is Remington Estate, which was formerly owned by the Remington family, but was inherited by Hannah and Aiden Jones. The mansion is haunted by the deceased Remington family, a family of 4 who all died in different mysterious ways. The ghost family is made up of Jasper Remington, Hannah's uncle, Eileen Remington, his wife, and the couple's 2 children, Cody and Kirsten Remington, who we will be talking about today. Cody died as a teen and appears to have died by fire. He is buried in the garden on the lot. There are actually several rooms in the home filled with chimneys, one of which contains a lounge chair in the middle. Perhaps he died in one of these strange rooms. His traits were heavy sleeper, slob, good, and handy. Kirsten is Cody's little sister. She drowned as a child. She is buried outside the home, underneath the kitchen window, right next to her mother. Her traits were bookworm, ambitious, and slob. Some theorize that her death specifically may have been related to the sunken car in the town river. She also has an aunt named Lydia Remington, who is Hannah Jones's mother, who was buried in a local cemetery and also drowned. However, if resurrected, the two do not know each other, so it is unlikely their deaths were related. Also, something interesting to note, if Cody and Kirsten are resurrected, they are only acquaintances. This may suggest that Cody may have passed when Kirsten was quite young, maybe a baby or toddler, and as a result, she grew up not really knowing him. If you want to hear some interesting theories I have about this entire family and their mysterious demises, as well as the Remington estate itself, be sure to check out my video on the unsolved mysteries of The Sims 3. We have 2 more deceased children in Twinbrook. Twinbrook is the world that shipped with The Sims 3 Ambitions expansion. It is a peculiar town located in a sort of bayou/swamp. The town cemetery is called Ivy Hill Graveyard, and the deceased Sims of Twinbrook have some bizarre features. They are all a strange greenish hue, and their hair is a sort of grayish color. Almost all of them share the favorite color gray, and they are all barefoot. First, we have Wilhelmina Leaf. She is a child and is buried in Ivy Hill Graveyard. Her cause of death was electrocution. However, child Sims cannot die by electrocution. This could have been an oversight by the developers, but it is also possible they simply ignored that for the sake of telling some sort of story. Her traits were coward, inappropriate, and virtuoso. She has a medium-sized tombstone, which indicates she accumulated a decent amount of lifetime happiness points, which is especially impressive for her age. She has no known family alive or dead in Twinbrook. However, her grave is situated in between 2 other graves. The graves are simply marked remains. It is likely that these graves were meant to be relatives of hers, most likely parents. Kid Mug is a teen Sim buried in Ivy Hill Graveyard. His cause of death was starvation. His traits were excitable, insane, daredevil, and evil. The size of his tombstone suggests he accumulated over 150,000 lifetime happiness points, which usually usually means a sim completed their lifetime wish. However, he does not seem to even have one. Maybe he just had a very fulfilling life despite his early demise. He does not appear to have any living or deceased relatives in Twinbrook. The world with the most deceased young Sims is Barnacle Bay. It was the second world released on the Sims 3 store. It is an island town that was initially founded by pirates, which is reflected in the townsfolk's surnames and the town's pirate-themed architecture. Similar to Twinbrook, the town's dead all have greenish skin and seem to love the color gray. The town graveyard is called Barnacle Boneyard, and interestingly, many of the deceased Sims appear to have bios, which is not very common across the Sims 3. None of the Sims I have previously mentioned had bios. Also, unlike most other Sims 3 worlds, Barnacle Bay seems to take place in the future, given the presence of the Caliente sisters. Dina's bio states that their presence in Pleasantview was in the past, and they have now moved on to Barnacle Bay. One of the oldest ghosts in Barnacle Boneyard is Mirabelle Goldbeard. She is a child and died by drowning. It is implied in the bio of Darla Inkbeard, a deceased teen who we will talk about later, that she died in a flood. Mirabelle is a goofy little ghost and likes to mess with some of the other ghosts buried in the graveyard. Her traits were good sense of humor, inappropriate, and kleptomaniac. She has two siblings, a brother Minty Goldbeard, who died by electrocution as an adult and is also buried in Barnacle Boneyard, and a sister, Eleanor Goldbeard, who is alive and is an elder and the town mayor. If resurrected, Mirabelle is best friends with the both of them. It is a bit strange that Mirabelle has a living sibling, given that Mirabelle is said to have lived and died in the 1800s, especially since they are best friends, so it is unlikely that she was born all that much earlier than her sister. Davy Moans is another deceased child in Barnacle Bay. However, he is not buried at the town graveyard, but rather outside the home of the Goldbeard family. His bio states that he was the child of a servant of the family. His cause of death was fire, and his traits were coward, hates the outdoors, and over-emotional. His name is a play on Davy Jones from Pirates of the Caribbean. He does not have any sort of living or deceased relatives in Barnacle Bay. Darla Inkbeard is a deceased teen who died by fire. She is buried in Barnacle Boneyard and is a rather social girl. She loves chatting with the other ghosts in the cemetery, but cannot stand pesky little Mirabelle. The two also love arguing over whose death was worse. Her traits were charismatic, hates the outdoors, over-emotional, and flirty. She shares a surname with the living Inkbeard family in town, but it is unclear how she is related to them, as she does not appear in their family tree. Most likely she is a distant ancestor of the family. Next, we have one deceased teen in Appaloosa Plains. Appaloosa Plains is the world that shipped with the Sims 3 Pets expansion. It is a small, relaxed countryside town with lots of ranch-style homes and barns. The town graveyard is called Newton Cemetery, and all the dead Sims in town are a strange reddish pink color. There is actually only one deceased Sim buried in the graveyard. The rest are scattered about the map. Donna Partigue died of starvation as a teen. Her traits were brave, frugal, heavy sleeper, and childish. She has no known living or dead relatives in town. Her name is a reference to the Donner Party, who were a group of pioneers in the US who got stuck in the Sierra Nevada mountains due to snow. Most of them starved to death like Donna and/or had to resort to cannibalism. Our next two Sims lie in Moonlight Falls. Moonlight Falls is the world that shipped with the Sims 3 Supernatural expansion. It is a misty, forested town with waterfalls. The town is inhabited by occults of all kinds. The town graveyard is called Hallowed Ground Cemetery, and all the town's dead are a strange icy blue color. Now, forgive me if I pronounce this name wrong. Our first dead Sim in this town is Frickerith Tricot. Frickerith Tricot is a teen buried in the town cemetery. His cause of death was fire, and his traits were charismatic, computer whiz, lucky, friendly, and no sense of humor. This is rather odd, as teen Sims are usually only able to have 4 traits. Frickerith is actually a returning Sim from The Sims 2. The Tricot family were a deceased family in the downtown neighborhood that came with The Sims 2 Nightlife expansion. The family is presumed to have lived at the House of Fallen Trees in downtown before they all tragically passed. Frickerith is buried at the home and haunts the house. Oddly, his cause of death was by satellite in The Sims 2, which differs from The Sims 3. It is unclear why on earth he is buried here in Moonlight Falls, especially given the fact that The Sims 3, mostly, with the exception of Barnacle Bay, as mentioned earlier, takes place in the past, 50 years before The Sims 2. This would mean that he was for some reason buried in Moonlight Falls first, despite none of the rest of the family or their home being there, and he was then moved to downtown downtown in The Sims 2. It is also possible that his appearance in Moonlight Falls isn't really meant to follow any sort of continuity with his previous appearance in The Sims 2 and is perhaps simply an Easter egg. Jimmy Vu is another deceased teen in Hallowed Ground Cemetery. His cause of death was electrocution, and his traits were angler, couch potato, and flirty. This is a bit strange, as it appears he only has 3 traits instead of the usual 4 for teens. He does not seem to be related to any other Sims in town or buried in the cemetery. Our final ghost child resides in Midnight Hollow. Midnight Hollow is another Sims 3 store world. It is a spooky little town where the sun never seems to shine. It is the town for the misfits and the eccentric. Something worthy of note is the fact that despite the town's emphasis on uniqueness and individuality, all Sims in town lack personal bios. All the male Sims have one bio and female Sims have another. The town graveyard is called Ghastly Graveyard, however, the Sim we will be discussing is not buried there. Sandra Salas is a child and she resides at 27 Swallow Street with her parents Tatiana and Jay Salas and her little sister Frida. Her cause of death appears to have been electrocution, but as mentioned earlier, children cannot die by electrocution in The Sims 3. However, the household bio states that Tatiana and Jay met as ghosts. Both of them died by electrocution themselves, so Sandra seems to have been a ghost baby and inherited it from the two of them. Of all the Sims on this list, she is the only one who is actually playable without resurrection. Additionally, she is the only one who actually did not die, as she was never technically alive. So those are all the ghost children in The Sims 3. For some reason, I really enjoy looking at all the dead Sims across The Sims 3 world. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below if you have any theories about any of the deaths of these Sims. Next week, we'll be taking a break from The Sims 3, and we're going to be looking at The Sims 2. Now, I don't want to spoil what the video is about, but I hope it will be a pleasant wink 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 surprise. So if that interests you, I hope to see you there. Bye bye.